final-ish stages of writing a book. I'm not going to self-publish. We're going for the big ones. We're going for the big guys. And my story has pretty much consumed my life. That sounds kind of dramatic, but so my dad was murdered when I was 2 years old in the Navy, and I experienced grief for the first time when I was 17 years old. Didn't really understand what it was. Anyway, I felt like he led me on a long journey. I had an extraordinary experience when I was 17 at his gravesite in Arlington National Cemetery. And my book talks about how I felt his influence from the other side, directing me to ultimately solving his murder. And so that's the basic, and it's been a really interesting journey. I didn't plan on writing a book at first. I just thought, okay, these are experiences. This is how I'm going to overcome the issues I've had as a child. And the longer I went, the more I learned, the more I realized that I wanted to share this with other people. I don't want other kids who have lost loved ones at an early age to feel the suppression, to feel, undiagnosed PTSD as I had. And so that's the basic. That's the tip of the iceberg. So.
My name is Angela Eschler, and I run an editorial and publishing and agent prep group. So we can help you with your, when your book is about ready to be heading off to press, we can help you make sure it's really refined and looks really professional. And if you want to go the agent route, we can help you with that sort of process as well. So that's what we do.
My name's John Wright, and I worked with Jenn one-on-one, and I got my book published. It's called Overcoming Life's Obstacles, and it is technically a self-help, personal development type book. If you go to the Sugar House, Barnes & Noble, you'll see it in the business section. But I also include a lot of personal stories from my life, different experiences I've had. And honestly, it does the most good for me, because if I had amnesia and I woke up every day and I said, who am I would read my book and say, oh, it says I have to do that. Okay, great, I'm doing it. So it really helps me the most, probably, of anyone in the world.
My name is Mitch Nelson. I am a entrepreneur and real estate investor. And I guess you could say I'm a product of the product, right, Jen? Yeah. So when I first met Jen, I heard her say a lot of the stuff that she said today. Well, I guess I shouldn't say it's when I first met you, but I heard you say that it's not necessarily that you're going to make millions off of being an author. It's or off your book. It's what the book will do for you, or the doors that the book will open. And then I thought, I used to think, yeah, authors, they're rich, that'd be awesome. But when she said that, I thought, man, I've got something that I think is really special, and that I want to share with a lot of people. I coach people how to become wealthy in their own lives, and so I use the book as a way to build credibility for myself, and it's done amazing things for my business. So it's called Mindset to Millionaire. It is self-published on Amazon.
Great, thank you. So thanks, panel members, for being here.
Wait,
oh, sorry, Linda. You're hidden behind there. It's not a sight.
It's on? Is this on? Okay. I'm Linda Rawson, and I've had a defense contracting firm for about 10 years. I'm an 8A woman-owned small business, and I decided to help other women and minority-owned businesses to learn about certifications and learn the way that they can get a business started and get going with government contracts. So this is my book, and I start with step one all the way to the end, and touch on the basics and like I said, how to get started. Now, what we talk about here is these books. Now, I have never had a prouder moment in my life than to be able to say I'm an author. It's been amazing. And I took a class, I'm a product of the product too. I took a class from Jenn about a year ago, I think. I don't know.
Less than a year.
She helped me get through the process of self-publishing. And in business, there's nothing like coming up and saying, hey, I wrote a book. You know what I mean? It's just impressive. So if you think about it, that's part of it. It's part of a self improvement exercise.
Great, well, thank you. So I'll kick this off with this one question before we open up to the audience. You spoke about building a platform, whether you're self-publishing or going through a publishing route. And when we look at the different styles of books to write, whether it's technical, non-technical, how-to, can you recommend a variety of platforms to use to build an audience in advance of your launch, and ways that you can engage your current networks versus ways of building new networks?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, just strategies to use a platform, what platforms you would use to build a network in advance of launching your book.
Okay, well, I'm probably the most fanatical Facebook person you've ever met in your life, and I break all the rules as much as possible. I started my Facebook page, John David Wright, and I got to 5,000 friends really fast. So I also speak Chinese, so I created a Chinese name, and that's got about 2,000 people on it. And then I said, well, I really want more friends. I'll create a nickname. So I go by Gaoshang John. So at some point, Facebook will probably shut me down. But in the meantime, I'm having a lot of fun, and I promote my book on all 3 of my Facebook sites. And the other day, I was downtown, and I met one of my friends, and we're music buddies. You know, we've done gigs. And the first thing he wanted to talk to me about was my book. I mean, it completely changes how people view you and what you talk about. Because otherwise we talk about some obscure jazz thing, which will make us all broke, which is why all the musicians are broke.
I'm sure you guys are going to talk about a lot of this stuff. So, I mean, basically you have your niche market of your ideal customer avatar, right, that you're writing to. And then you have all those people that are, if you write from the heart and you write something that touches people, because people will take action when you touch their heart, right? And so if you write something really compelling, you're speaking to the people that you met to, and you're also speaking to the people that you didn't know that you spoke to. So there's all kinds of online social media, there's all kinds of niche markets, there's all kinds of spin-offs you can do, you know, of course, with your book. Like, I mean, think of Chicken Soup for the Soul, right? So gardening for the ninja, whatever it is, right? But there are billions, practically, of markets out there that you can discover once you have your product ready to go. So we'll let them list a whole bunch of the specific ways, but I mean, it's amazing. The military will buy, hopefully yours, the military could buy thousands of copies of your book if you have the right distributor, and they're non-returnable. So there's all kinds of stuff that you just couldn't even imagine out there. So I'll let them list some specifics, but it really depends on your genre and who you're writing to and what you're doing. So.
Okay, and to kind of spring off of that, this book is my first, and probably the best thing that I did was not being afraid to talk to people at the top. And the reason I say that is there's a program called TAPS out there, and I am wildly passionate about TAPS. It's Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors. I learned about it through a friend, and so Bonnie Carroll is the founder, and they've helped over 50,000 military survivors, widows, orphans, to learn how to grieve the way they feel is proper. And I actually reached out to the founder. I added her as a friend on Facebook. She actually accepted. I was kind of starstruck, going, okay, all right. Sent her a little email and ended up talking to her for an hour. Well, 50,000 military survivors, knowing people at the top. I actually went to an event a few weeks ago, and that's one of my biggest. And then there are other causes that I'm passionate about. I'm a runner. I wore my TAPS jersey to run Ragnar, and anytime anybody asked about it, I'm like, oh, I'm running for my dad and I'm writing a book. And so a lot of mine has been a little bit more warm and finding people that I'm passionate, or finding causes that I'm passionate about and connecting that way.
That's great. I guess we'll leave that like that. Okay. One of the things that I'd highly recommend too is to get really clear on your avatar, because how many of you have noticed, like, social media, of course, has just exploded, right? And whether you're self-publishing or traditional publishing, you could spend 24/7 literally on social media and not necessarily reach your avatar. So to be specific about, okay, where would my readers hang out at? And so if you're doing B2B, then LinkedIn is where you really get to be. You know, have a presence on Facebook, but then make sure you're spending a majority of your time on LinkedIn, writing articles, blogging, you know, making sure that you're getting up there as an expert. And if you're trying to reach a younger crowd, don't be on Facebook 90% of the time, because guess where they are not? Because mom and dad are on Facebook. So you'll want to make sure that you're paying attention to where your avatar is hanging out at, and that's the #1 thing that I would do. And traditional publishers, as well as for self-publishing, you don't have to be jack of all trades. Pick 2 or 3 or 4 of the very best ones, and then also think outside the box. You know, what could you do that would be different? You've seen the push-ups lately. There was the ice bucket challenge a couple years ago. You saw the Wookiee woman. You know, be bizarre, have fun, try some extraordinary things, and see what happens.
And Bridget stole my answer, so. No, that's what I was gonna say too. You just wanna pick 3, you know, I tell all my clients, you wanna pick 3 to 5, usually around 3 social media platforms, or, you know, platforms that you're gonna focus on. And then one of those is gonna be your strongest of where your avatar is, where the person that you are talking to. And similar, I don't know if you guys have, you know, been to places where they have you pick who your avatar is or your main person that you're talking to, but if you haven't done that, there's lots of free stuff online and lots of YouTube videos about it, but go through the process and figure out your exact person that you have it defined, where she's a 35-year-old woman that has 4 kids, that makes this amount of money, that does this, you know, all these different things specific. She has blue hair or whatever, right? I was just saying today, so many people have blue hair, whatever it is, right? So make sure you have that specific person, and then where are they hanging out? And, you know, maybe it is Snapchat. They just came out with how to make money on Snapchat on the business, one of the business magazines I was reading. So maybe you should be doing ads on Snapchat, right? So just pick 3 and focus on them, and usually 1 out of those 3 is the one you're going to really focus, like she said with LinkedIn.
Is this on? Yeah. In addition to the social media and all of that, something I would recommend doing when you're ready to take your book far is, in addition to all the speaking and everything else, is find a good book distributor who actually has connections to tons of those markets you don't know about or don't have access to, because a lot of success in publishing is networking and knowing the right people who know the right people, and they can open doors to markets that would be amazing for you and places you should be that you may not even be aware of. So that's something else I'd add.
And one other thing I'd like to add too is, you know, how success leaves clues. Well, check out what some of your favorite authors are doing for their marketing, because all of a sudden you'll go, oh, these guys are a buyer and I didn't even think about them. And I could also go speak for them. You know, there's a number of things that you can go take a look at what, you know, your competition. I don't believe in competition. I believe that all boats rise together, but they'll give you some ideas of markets that you can pursue that you might not have even thought of.
You know, I've got kind of more of a grassroots platform. I do a lot of face-to-face meetings. I do a lot of talking to people one-on-one. And the purpose of writing the book was to build credibility in myself. You know, there are 3 things when it comes down to sales. There's really 3 things that you need to focus on. The first is credibility in yourself. They want to know why they should be listening to you before they care at all about any value in your product. And you get blabbed for hours about technical specifications and benefits and blah blah blah. What they're thinking is, why should I be listening to this guy or gal? They don't care until you answer that question. And if you walk in with a best-selling book and you say, this is why you should be listening to me, you can move on to the technical specifications and the blah, 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 because now you've set that credibility. And so my platform, really, what I've had the most success with is using it on a grassroots level, on a face-to-face level, of just saying, hey, this is who I am. I'm a best-selling author. These are some of the principles that I believe in, that I teach, and then going into the product development. After that, the third thing is simply asking for the sale, right? So once you've established those 2 things, it becomes a lot easier to create that transaction. So I feel kind of intimidated being up here with people who have so much more purpose behind what they're writing about. Like I wrote my book about money and how to get more of it. So I feel very shallow in comparison to some of the people up here. So I thought I'd just say that out loud because I was feeling it on the inside. Anyway.
Thank you for being raw and real. I'll just throw this out there real quick. Thanks, Mitch, by the way, for that. That was good. Your book's good. People want to know it. What's in there? One thing I'll just throw out really quick. It's kind of like building your platform, but similar to like what you were saying about don't be afraid to reach the person at the top. Once your book is published, whether you do a publisher or not a publisher, but if it's on Amazon, my favorite trick, the foot in the door trick, is to buy your own book on Amazon and mark it gift wrapped and mark it at a note and find the address. Hopefully it's their house, not their business. But if you want to get a book in front of somebody, gift wrap it and ship it to them. It'll get past the gatekeeper because it's wrapped. If they open it and it's a beautiful blue wrapper with a yellow ribbon and it has a card, they're not going to open it. They're going to put it on their on the person's desk. So that person at the top, reach out to them, give them your book. They probably have those distribution channels that you're talking about to give it to that person. I actually know a guy who wrote a book for 3 specific people. Like he just wanted to work with those 3 people, like specifically 3 individuals. And he wrote the book and he mailed them a copy of their book. What's cool about Amazon, you mark it as gift wrapped, you can put a little note inside. The note, you can record a video of yourself, put it on YouTube unlisted, right? So only they can see it if they have the link. Put a little short link to your YouTube video, and the video is you talking for 1 minute saying, hey, here's a copy of my book. I know that you're gonna love it. Check out page 30. It has this in there that I know that you need, or whatever you want to tell them, but tell them in 30 seconds to a minute. They're going to be floored that you are an author and that you want them to read page 30, right? And then lots of doors will open, whether that's your specific client or the person that's going to get you, the huge list of the 200 or 200,000 people that they're going to buy your book. So it's great.
Great. So let's move on and open up some questions from the audience. Anybody have any questions for the panel members?
You guys talked a lot about how, like, best-selling books. How do we get there? Like, what are the ways to make your book a best-selling book?
Well, you can talk about the New York stuff. I can talk about the New York stuff and then have her talk, because she's got more #1 national best-selling books than I do. I have 2 national best-selling books, and I have a New York Times and a Wall Street Journal best-selling. So what you get to know as business people is that there are ways to structure creating a best-selling book. New York Times best-selling is difficult to structure. Like, it genuinely has to be of good quality most of the time. And in order to play the game, if you were to create your own New York Times best-selling book, you would have to have more than $1 million in marketing and purchase power. So usually when someone has a New York Times, you know that that's pretty genuine. But as a businesswoman, it behooves me to make sure that all of my books are bestsellers. And so I'll have Jenn speak to you about that. But I'm glad that you're thinking about that, because there are specific ways that you can, create that. So you have the most. Yeah. So to become a bestseller, of course, you want a winning title and a great book cover, but you want to have good content inside as well. But you want to make sure with Amazon, it's different than other platforms. So, depending on what list you want to be on, you have to have a certain amount of copies sold within a certain amount of time. And that's pretty much it. So that's why we talk about the list so much. That's why you want to have a list, so that whether you're selling your first book or your second book, that you have a lot of people to go buy your book, right? So, if you can get into those, some of the books that I read when I was on the Book of the Month Club, because my parents were in Amway, and Book of the Month Club, I read so many great books, a lot of the ones that you see up there that I showed you. And they were bestsellers. Why? Because Amway has how many 100,000 millions of people that bought their book, and they were in the Book of the Month Club, right? So a lot of people bought their book, they have the distribution channels. So it really just is about having the great book, but also positioning yourself with that. So to be honest and real and raw with you, to be an Amazon bestseller, you could sell 100 books, you could sell 500 books. You just have to be in the right category for your book that matches your book. You can't be sometimes you'll find weird categories, and sometimes Amazon just puts you in that category. Like our story starters were in a calendar category, but it's not a calendar. It's a journal, it's a story starter. So, but you have to be in the right category,
And then you have to have a lot of books sold within that 24-hour period.
That's when you get your best friends and moms and dads and everyone to buy all at the same time. You know, just
Well, I found a couple of unique ways to promote my book. Number one is I mention people by name in the book. So like my friend Dave Sanderson from New Hampshire, when it was his birthday on Facebook, I said, "Happy birthday, by the way, do you know you're in my book?" And then I made sure on my personal page that I had my book link. So he was gonna go, "What? I'm in this book?" You know, so he probably wanted to buy it and see what it was. That's one way I promote it. Another way is banks, cashiers. You know, my first question is, do you like to read? And then I say, "Oh, do you know I have a #1 book on Amazon?" And then I have this little card. And there's a saying in business that goes, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So my card says, "Please help support my daughter on her mission and purchase my new book, Overcoming Life's Obstacles." Because people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So,
And he's got to pay for, every month he's got to send money to her.
so those are just a few tricks. When I'm in a bank, they say, "Can I do anything else for you?" I say, "Yeah, you can buy my book." I mean, I'm like out there in their face all the time. So that's just me, because I'm that way.
I have to give a shout out to John. So he's my children's piano teacher, and mine too as well. He's a great jazz musician. If you ever can hear him play, he's awesome. But what's awesome about him is he's not afraid to just get his book out there. And I was actually embarrassed because was it last month or the month before? He was wanting to know about his royalty payment and when he was going to get paid by Amazon, how much he was going to get. So I looked it up and showed him how to get into the back office of Amazon and create space so he could see how much he was going to get in his bank account. And it was like 3 times the amount I was getting. So I was like, "What? How did you sell so many books?" Well, now I know why. He handed out lots of cards, talked to everybody, and word of mouth, and told people to buy his book. If you don't ask, they're not going to buy.
I'll just add something about the business networking. Obviously, networking is awesome in business. Lots of people have sold lots of books by either spotlighting others in their book or finding some way to have that person connect and want to cross-promote with you. So if you have a book on a certain topic and it's serving the same market as your friend, but they serve very differently, like writing, coaching, marketing, editing, that sort of thing, you can either team up and do a book together, or you can put your 3 books together on Amazon and sell it as a set, or you can do business events together that include your books, or you can just highlight and interview other people in your book, but then you're calling on all the networks of all those people and they're all cross-promoting and raising that book up too. So that's a very effective way to get your platform bigger a lot faster. There's something else with that I'm trying to think of.
And the list sharing.
The list sharing, yeah, list sharing. And then also there's a ton of book promotion, like the Amway book. There's a ton of online, like I'm saying, the online resources are just ridiculous how much is out there. But there's a ton of online book promotion list groups that you can also pay to put your book on their list. But again, those are strategic business decisions. Like, you're not going to sell a lot of books to the romance list, right? So find the right list. But those are some other ways to move things quickly. I have a friend that she and several other authors put their books together, and they ran a huge promotion and they lowered the price altogether at the same time, and they timed it so that they made themselves USA Today bestselling authors with their self-published books. But they had to put a lot of time into the strategy and watching where the list was pulling their info from for sales and how many they had to sell and how many days. So they had to strategize it all first. But there's a lot of stuff you can do. It's pretty amazing.
Just want to say this book went bestseller in 4 categories. One of them is mortgages, and I actually badmouth the mortgage industry pretty good in this book. So yeah, I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but I thought that was pretty ironic.
All our categories.
Yeah. Good.
Great, any other questions from the audience? Right there?
You're a platform for writing an ebook or a book. Create Space, or what other platforms have you found that work well?
Yeah, there's Lightning Source, there's CreateSpace, there's iUniverse. We do one, you do one, we use them. There's tons out there. They all just charge different amounts of money for different types of services. A lot of the traditional publishers too, like Hay House, are now doing a spin-off of a self-publishing service where they're using their same networks and everything, but you pay them instead of them paying you. So there's a ton out there. The two biggest though, I would definitely say are probably like Ingram's Lightning Source, CreateSpace.
So Ingram is one that a lot of my clients use. We personally use CreateSpace because it's a sister company to Amazon, and they have great distribution. You'll get your book on Barnes & Noble, Goodreads, I don't know, there's a ton. And then for the Kindle or the ebook, we use Kindle, which is KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. And they work together because they're an Amazon company, so that you have the one book, you know, on Amazon, one page, that's your book with your reviews, and then you have the option to buy the print or the ebook. So that's why we use them, but a lot of people use Ingram or, what's the one you said? Lightning Source. And I have a few people who've used Lulu, Lulu. They're okay. I just say, go and use what you think looks easiest for you, you know? I was gonna say there's a top 10 reviews. If you go to the one for 2016, because they gathered all the 2015 information. So there's 10 companies that are rated the highest, and they compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. So I'd highly recommend checking out that website first.
Yeah, so the other big one, BookBaby, obviously, and then Smashwords for ebook distribution is another big one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we use BookBaby too. BookBaby will give you the hardback book. It costs a lot, but they'll get you one. And then we use BookBaby for the ebook distribution because they'll help you get on iTunes Books and Google Books and all the other ebook platforms besides Kindle.
Okay, we have one question back there and then right over here.
Yes, so Bridget, back in secret number 2, you spoke about specifically when should I build my platform, and then you touched briefly on pre-launch campaigns, launch campaigns, post-launch campaigns. Could some of you talk about timings for those and how those work and why you do that?
I'll just say something briefly, and then these guys are all very talented too. So what I do with my authors is we go through specifically, okay, what are we going to do to build the excitement and the tension? Then what are we going to do as the book is being launched? And then how do we increase the longevity of it and maintain that? So the pre is all about, just like in your stories, you know, you're going to build the tension and the excitement to it. And it's usually 30 to 60 days in advance. So within 60 days, you're letting people know, oh, in 2 months, you know, this book is going to be in our hot little hands and we're getting really excited. And so you have blog posts and you have social media, you have your newsletters going out and you're letting people know. If you have pre-sales, you can do that. You could have contests. A lot of my recommendations would be to get reviews. So you send out the copy in advance to bloggers, especially those that have hundreds of thousands or millions that read their blog posts. So you send it to them for free and say, you know, I'd be very honored if you would do this. I think, and then you specify it because nobody likes form letters. So you say, I think you would really be interested in this because I've taken a look at what you've reviewed in the past, and this seems to be up your alley, and we'd be really honored if you would do this. So then they read your free thing, and then they post it to their 100,000 or million, you know, people. And like I said, contests and other things. And then the same thing, especially during that launch, that's a hot phase. That's something you really want to capitalize on. So radio, television, you know, magazines, press releases, everything and anything and everything. Get out on Harrow, put a press release out. Make sure that you're listed as a pundit on Help a Reporter Out. If you guys haven't written that one down, helpareporterout.com is what I believe. No, it's called, they changed it. Helpareporter.com is what it is now. You can have a free thing, but during your launch, I would recommend that you have a paid membership. And then post-launch, you're taking all of those things and you'll continue to, you know, oh, our book's been doing so well. We've now, you know, reached this on the bestsellers list. This is why. Continue to do interviews, continue to have blogs, things that are tied to your books. You know, this is what we're doing now. Have you read the book yet? We're now creating these things, you know. So you just take everything that you've already created and then expand it and send it out as long-term as you can. And Angela's got some good things on that too.
well, I was just gonna add, I don't know if these are online, but traditional publishers have launch schedules. that you could maybe find. I have one, but it's very secretly held. There, you can find information, if you Google online, like you can find stuff about book launches and you can get kind of an idea of the picture of what it would look like. One caution I was going to add to that is when you're planning that strategy, make sure that the places that you're going to get the biggest and best exposure are relevant to your book being out, because a lot of people will have their biggest bang of having so many people that would hear about their book and it's their perfect people and their book's not out yet, and people forget so quickly. So just make sure that when you're planning that your pre-buzz is relevant to just having a lot of people hear it over and over, because there's that 18 times rule or whatever, right, with marketing. And that when you're ready to hit your biggest things, that your book is ready for people to buy right then. So that's the only main thing I would add.
Hey, this isn't really an answer to specific questions, but it's something where I'm guessing most of you are here because you're getting ready to write a book. You want to write a successful book. And I was sitting where you were about 3 years ago. I rolled my eyes at a lot of the programs. I'm not going to lie. I didn't want to get involved in a book. I didn't want to, I was just kind of a little bit too busy for that. And it's amazing how aligning yourself with the right people, that was the best decision I'd ever made. I've been working on my book for 5.5 years, and about almost 3 years ago, I went to one of those classes, and I met Bridget and I met Angela, and world's biggest skeptic, but long story short, I had what I thought was a decent book, but I knew that I couldn't get past a certain place. It sounded like some sounded like journal entries, others sounded, I just couldn't get it to flow. I couldn't get it to where I needed it to be, and I knew that to honor my dad and also the story that I have lived, I wanted it to be done right. And so I went to Bridget's first retreat, and really long story short, after working with her for 2.5 years, I was actually interviewed by, I can't say who it is, but it was a TV producer, and I had another TV producer approach me and be like, I want your story. And the big one that interviewed me, in order to potentially pitch it, he told me, you know what, and Bridget, I'm going to embarrass you here, but he said, I love working with Bridget, she's wonderful. So align yourself with the right people and don't be afraid to invest in, like, these 2 programs, they're proven. And I'm not a salesperson, but at the same time, my job out hit the ground when I heard that this producer wanted to talk to me. And once you have one person express interest, you're going to have more. And so my book isn't out yet. It's very in the latter stages, but at the same time, I've got people waiting. And so as far as building your platform and also the launch, align yourself with the right people and make sure it's good and solid, because once it gets read by the first person, that's going to be your biggest thing. You want it to be done right. So
I would just add, to go along with what everyone's saying, what Angela, and to summarize what Bridget said, is just make sure you have the plan. So don't launch like on a whim. Just have it set out, have your calendar, know what you're going to be doing. And it sounds really overwhelming, all the stuff they're saying, you have to do this. But if you have a plan and you set it up, just like anything in business, if you have a business plan, you're going to have successful business, right? So if you have a book launch plan, then you'll have a successful launch.
Okay, we have time for one more question.
I forgot what it was.
Okay. Ready.
Oh, I know what it was.
Okay.
How do you know what kind of, if you're self-publishing, how do you know how to price your book and things like that? I mean, what kind of advice can you give us on that?
Well, Mitch and John, their books are both, what, $50 each? So really you just look at what other people are doing in your industry and what they're selling for. To me, it depends on how many pages you have. So, I mean, people will sell their books anywhere from $10 to $25, and hardbacks, $35 to $50. It just really depends on how many pages, and then of course the content. You'll see authors out there who are selling their ebooks for $20. Well, that's because a lot of people want to read their books, so they up the price, right? But most ebooks are around $3 or $5 because you want a lot of people to read them. So it just really depends on the author and how many pages, and there's kind of a lot. So yeah, So, you know, my less than 100-page books are usually $10, and sometimes you'll drop down to $7 or something, $7.99. And then the more than that, like this one's $14.95. This is an author who just publishers.
You were talking about a royalty that Amazon pays you. How does that work?
Yeah, you can look up online. They'll tell you all the details. It's really like a lot to read, but it's pretty much a 70-30 split or 35, depending on what you price it at. So actually, when we did the launch, it's only 35%. So if you do a launch for 99 cents, is what we do with our ebook launches, and you only make 35 cents. So yeah, but then when you mark it up to $2.99, you get 70% instead of 35, or whatever price you're going to sell it for.
Do you use BookBub and those guys?
I can comment on some of that. So just really quick on that, there's a lot to read on Amazon, like based on what price you choose is what your royalty bracket is, okay?
Yeah.
And there are pricing strategies that you do for dropping it in order to sell a bunch, in order to get on the list, and then you raise it really quick so everybody else can write. There's stuff like that. And so there's pricing strategy, but with like BookBub and all, those are some of those book promotion sites we were talking about. A lot of those can be really useful, but it's for certain genres. So what I was going to kind of add to this whole thing, and we didn't talk about hybrid authors, which is huge, but somebody come talk to us about hybrid authors. But you need to kind of know what you're doing so that you're not wasting your money on the wrong strategy. And so, I mean, not to say go talk to professionals, but like when I did my books, I hired a professional editor, even though I'm a professional editor. And I had a professional marketer and I hired, does that make sense? Like I knew what I knew about my industry, but I knew that somebody else knew a lot more about X, Y, and Z. And so if you want to be really successful, spend a little bit of money and go have a consult with someone who really knows what they're doing and who can pinpoint your book's market and the strategy that works for your type of book. Because online, you will be overwhelmed with the insane amount of information out there, and 80% of it won't apply to you, or you'll be reading the wrong 80%. So like I say, with anything else in life, hire the professional. Don't let your husband be the plumber, right? It's that same kind of thing.
If you think hiring a professional is expensive, try hiring an amateur.
Right. Excellent point.
Very well said. Very well said.
Great. So with that, we're going to wrap up for the evening. I'd like to thank the speakers and the panel members for joining us today. We do have to vacate by 9 o'clock. And so if any of the panel members and speakers want to stick around, feel free to chat and ask any questions. Thank you so much for joining us.
We just got a 12-hour
No, thank you.
I like you. So you hit the mark.
So how do we find out? information about what
You go sit for right there?
That's where you're gonna train your advertising marketing, and then you have to show them how to
And then I went to